Hi, I'm Jim, and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop, and we're working on Andy's machine. Now, I've got most of it put together, but what I do want to show you is how to load the drivetrain as far as locking the collars. Here's one locking collar, and here's his locking collar onto the bearings, and how to position the axle before you lock it on. Now, when I first started taking this apart and before I cleaned everything, I said how good his 63.2 gear looked until I got it cleaned up. What had happened is his bearing totally fell apart. This is an old bearing of mine. That's what it's supposed to look like. And here's his. All the pieces are there. But when I opened the case up, I could not see any balls. Well, I found them. They were all in the bottom of the case. And the reason the machine would lock up once in a while is a ball would get stuck between this gear. This is a gear that goes on the sprocket, and this gear. And if you try to run them together, you'll come to a spot where they don't go. And this one, you can even see chips in the teeth and a lot of excessive wear on this side. So luckily, how he knew he needed this, I'll never know, because he didn't take it apart. He just bought one of them and sent it. He bought the boot and sent it. These are pretty much gone. You'll have a very hard time finding them. I called every snapper dealer in the country that I could get their phone number off of Google. And if they had one, I bought it and told them to ship it to me. By the time I got it and I paid shipping, I paid about 25 bucks a piece for these. But if you can't get one when you need it, it'd be worth $1,000. They're gone. They're not making these parts. And I'll show you a couple parts that they are making. They sent a lot of this crap to China. China's making a lot of parts. Your 2019 and 2020s, after that they pretty much quit making them. All the drivetrain parts were made in China, and they're just absolutely junk. One big issue, these are the O-rings that go around the bolt that goes through the sprocket and shaft and through the cover right here and out through the fender, and you squeeze it all together. Well, I ordered some. This is what they sent me. This is what they're supposed to be. It's hard to tell in this picture, but they're quite a bit smaller in diameter, the material, not the size of the hole. And by the time you get that little O-ring inside this cupped washer, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't touch, it won't seal. So I went to my supplier, and I get all my hydraulic line, air line, it's West Michigan rubber, and I bought 50 of the correct ones. So I'm set pretty much for that. Another big problem is your thrust washers that snap into your hexagon shaft. This is what they're supposed to be. This is what China is making. You see the difference in that? not only are these too long, the hole, here's his old axle, here's the correct one, slides on. The ones China are making, you can't get them on. They're worthless. I called Parts Street and I said, wait a minute, you guys dig through your bin and find me some old ones. Well, he did, and he didn't find any. He got like 147 of these things, and I said, you might as well send them back to your vendor because they're worthless. There's nothing you can use these for. I ordered a dozen of them because I knew they were getting hard to find. I got the new ones. So I just threw all them away. It gave me a refund, of course, but I don't know. So what happened to his differential cover, you're asking? With all them parts rolling around in there with gears? Well, the large 63 tooth gear that fits in here, and you can see there's not a lot of clearance. Even if I pull it all the way one way, it's pretty tight. What would happen is then the teeth on them would grab a ball and suck it through, and this is what it did to the inside of the case. And when that was happening, the machine would still move. But when it picked up one and it got stuck between the sprocket in gear and the large gear, it would lock the machine up until you pushed it backwards. The ball would fall, then it would keep going. Always something, isn't it? Well, I've got this together. And I went out and dug out one of my Fenders that has bearings in it. Now, back in the day, you have to have a spacer to go inside here, and it fits over your axle. Well, back in the day, they made steel ones that drop down in here. And this sticks up, and then your thrust washer on the other side of your hexagon shaft hits up against that. Well, now they make them out of plastic, and that drops down in there, and it just barely hits the back side of the inner race before it starts rubbing on the part of the bearing. I don't know why they even have that on there. It doesn't do anything. But what we're going to do is we're going to shove this shaft into my Fender so it'll keep it parallel. Let me tip this down. Right now this is pretty stiff. Everything is fitting pretty good. When you get this put together and you've been driving it for a while and things start to wear, you're going to have side play, and that you don't want. Tip this back up a little bit. That is what's going to wear your cover out. I had one. I wish I would have kept it. Maybe I got it, I don't know, but it was on my 33-inch machine I drove up to Traverse City and bought. And what happened to his, he ended up with a lot of side play. And this hexagon tube moved sideways, and inside of here is the chain. And the chain cut a slot right through this cover. And of course, if you got just in the right position, when the edge of the chain caught on the cover, it would lock up the rear end. Well, this gentleman took it in to the dealer up there, and he said, it's not worth fixing. You can't get parts for them. Well, this was 3 or 4 years ago, and they had plenty of parts. So I bought it, and I'm going to totally rebuild it, but all it actually needed was a new cover. They're less than 200 bucks, and he could have fixed it for the guy. But instead of that, the dealer sold it, and I went up and got it. Well, all my thrust washers are doing their job, and I don't feel any end play in here. Sometimes you will, and if you have end plate or side plate, you want to pull it towards the cover against the thrust bearing. Then you want to lock this down and hold it in position. When you come to this side, you can't pull it back because it's already locked over here. So you put on your other lock ring and lock that. Now, if you have side play in your hexagon tube, which this one doesn't, this is nice. You want to use these little washers. Well, that's not one. This is one. I bought him 3 of them just in case he needed them. I'll send them with the drivetrain when I ship it back to him. To get these in, let me put this other part on here. Maybe I'll wipe off. I kind of lubricated this a little bit to put it together, so it wasn't totally dry. This is your little plastic thing instead of a piece of steel. This is going to fit about like this. Then if you have side play, you want to fill it in with these. You don't have to tear it all apart. These used to come with a small little V cut in them. So they were like a C. They don't sell them anymore. I guess they're too lazy to cut the little piece out. Stick a pair of scissors and either cut a small V or just cut a slot. Most times I just cut a slot in it. I just cut it with a pair of scissors. And you can spread it open and you just shove it in there until it snaps in place. Let's do this right, Joey. Here's the little washer that locks in your hexagon tube. Then this goes on, rubs up against that, and then your cover goes on. Now, if you don't have any side play, like this one, you don't need to put these in. But eventually, all this stuff is going to wear. The bearings don't wear as much as the bushings do. The face of the bushings, I have one of them around here somewhere. You can tell this one's been worn. It's got a ring mushed out on it, kind of like a chisel gets when you pound on the chisel. When you're turning, and especially if you're going on a hill sideways, it puts a lot of stress on your bushings. And the face of your bushing starts to wear on both sides, and that's how you end up with side plate. On these machines that have bearings, once you get this on here and locked down, this axle is not going to shift sideways. You're not going to be able to grab the tire and pull on it to see if you have any end play. What you're going to have to do is take your boot loose from your chain case, slide the boot back so you can get a hold of your hexagon shaft and see if you have side play or not. If you do, you're going to have to put them shims in there. If you don't, put the boot back on and you're good. Let's really do this right, shall we? I have his chain case rebuilt. There. Now, I always tell people, oh, my machine's not shifting good anymore. That's because this needs to be greased. What you want to do is put your chain case or your machine in the 5th gear. Stretch your boot out. Take your boot off of the chain case is the easiest. Let it slide back. Clean this. Grease it. Now it's hard to get the boot back on because you're working against a spring here. You want to shift it in reverse. That will stuff the chain case into the boot and you don't have to hold anything. You just tighten the clamp. Now it's in reverse. You loosen this side up and take it off. Clean and grease this. Any kind of grease. Then shift it back into 5th gear. It will compress the boot and it'll push it onto the chain case for you. Then tighten up the clamp. You're done. Now all I got left to do to this thing is lock this down, and the way I lock them, and I'm not sure how the company did it, is I turn it in the direction as if I was tightening a right-handed threaded nut. Find me a punch here. That's too big. Got a lot of punches, but they're all specialty. And you just pound on this sucker. You don't have to put a lot of torque on it. Because you lock it down with an Allen wrench. This one happens to be a 5/32 Allen wrench. Now to put the boot on. Some of these parts he sent me. And he sent me the clamp for the boot. But this boot, I imagine these are made in China too. It was a little distorted when I first got it, so I stuck his old lip seal up in here and I put it on the fender to kind of conform it into the shape it was meant to be in. We're going to run over and get some hot water, and I'll show you how to get these things in and out without ruining your boot. I'll be right back. Okay, I went and got the water out of the microwave. My wife she spoils the heck out of me. She got me a refrigerator, got me a microwave. She bought me a Mr. Coffee pot. Well, then I quit drinking coffee. But hey, in the winter, I go down and buy me a gallon of chocolate milk, and I pour it in the coffee pot and I heat it up. And I have some nice warm chocolate milk to drink while I'm out here shivering. Well, I don't shiver anymore either because I start a fire and if I walked over there and looked at the thermostat, it would probably say about 79. I like it warm. I like it warm. Wow, that's hot. Gotta pick that up with something. Now this does not have to be boiling hot water. It just has to be hot. I have a hot water heater in there too. And that gets it pretty close, but not quite hot enough. See how pliable this is now? It's just awesome. I get it out of that and then I throw it in the microwave for about a minute. And this baby's really stuck in there. There we go. There's the old one. He sent me a new one here somewhere. Or no, I mean I ordered a new one. I'm glad all these parts come in bags. You see, I cut them out and then I put the bag over here. And then I knew what parts I bought so I could charge him. He did send me some money on parts that I ordered everything I thought I was going to need. Well, some of them I don't need, so I'm not going to charge him for them, which he already paid, so he's going to get a refund. He just don't know it yet because this video is not going to air until I ship that thing back to him. This works so nice when you heat that up with water. You get that thing pliable. That thing pops right in there, and it just works. I put this in other videos. I don't know if you guys are listening, but now to get it on here, I could use a little bit of oil. This is what I've been using lately. Super S. It's a little thin. It's thinner than Snapper lube. And I know I get so much flack from this. Now I hooked this thing on here on an angle, because you can hurt them seals, especially if you slide it on an old shaft and you have burrs sticking out of here from the bolt. You will rip your seal and it will leak. So I hooked them on an angle, and then as I swing it down, I'm pulling down on it, which flexes the top part of the seal up, giving me more room on the bottom. Slides right on. Piece of cake. Now you want to get it up over the lip on the fender, and then you put your clamp on, which isn't opened up big enough for some reason. And I don't know if you watched the other videos of unboxing this thing. He sent in 3 boxes, and he sent me all the parts that he had that he wasn't going to be using. I think I'm going to put this on upside down because this is upside down. When I flip it over, it'll be on there correctly. And I kind of showed the wife, and I said, look at all this stuff Andy sent me. I mean, a lot of parts. Most all of them were brand new. She said, well, what's all this stuff worth? A lot more than I plan on charging him to fix his machine. So we kind of looked, at that point, we kind of looked at each other and said, we're not going to charge him, are we? Nope. He's overpaid for the rebuilding of this. So all he's going to get is a refund for the difference of the parts that he didn't use. I'm not into this right now for making money. Now in 2 months when I retire, things might change. But I want to do a shop tour. I keep saying that, but I'm trying to clean this place up and it just ain't happening. So we're gonna do a messy shop tour. And I have a wall over there. A lot of guys collect stickers. I don't collect stickers, I collect friends. And I've got, I don't know, probably 100 pictures over there of guys and gals sitting on their machines that I helped them fix, either through the videos or emails. And That's why I'm doing it. I enjoy helping people. And there's one man especially, he came here, I believe it's the guy that came here and bought my machine. I had 3 machines for sale. And it was a newer machine, single pedal, and of course they're on the left-hand side. And he has a prosthetic leg, and it's on the left-hand side. So he gets this thing home and he emails me. He says, you know, this is really hard to drive. He says, is there any way we can put the pedal on the right-hand side? I said, there sure is, and I'll tell you how to do it. Now his machine, you stepped on the pedal, and there's a little lever down there you shove over, and it holds the pedal down. That's your park, because they have no other park on these newer machines. If you reach up in front of the machine where the housing goes down and your steering shaft goes through, there's a hairpin in there. You pull that hairpin out, and that bar will come out, and there's a spring in there. You take it, you shove it in the opposite way, and you put the hairpin back in. Then I dug through all my parts out here, and I found him a right-hand pedal off of a 2-pedal machine. And I explained to him how to do it, switched the cable over, and he said, I got it. He wrote me back, he said, I got it done, and it works perfect. That's why I'm doing this. To help these people out that aren't totally mechanically inclined. I can't run a computer, nor do I ever want to. But this stuff just falls in place, and I have no trouble with it. So this is done. I'm going to be shipping it back. I'll air this video after I know he got his stuff back. I can tell by the tracking number. And I guess that's it. So until next time, work safe, have fun, and keep on snapping. Oh, my shirt. I've got 2 of these shirts. This one says this, and the other one I wear once in a while just says Snapper with a white picture instead of red. And the guy that makes these things, I can't think of his name right now. I will put his name and email address in the description below in this video. If you're interested, he makes any kind of shirts, any color of shirts, long sleeve, pocket. I imagine anything you want, he makes. He made these 2 and sent them to me as a gift. And I just can't come up with his name. I hate getting old. But I have an excuse. So until next time, we'll talk to you soon. So long.